Sheila Ordani. Welcome back again. Today I'd like to discuss a new series of blogs and YouTube videos I'm going to post in between the considerations of Appalachian history. And what we're going to be looking at is what the participants in history had to say on the events in their own time, in their own place, in their own words. There has been a lot of conversation here of late concerning people and events from the past, and how we in the year 2020 should remember and understand these people and events. Should we be censoring them? Should we just be studying them and trying to understand them? And I've been hearing a great many conversations which seek to judge and censor certain historical figures based upon our modern morals, our modern values and cultural understandings. Now, as I've said before, the events and people in the past occurred in an entirely different world, and the social values and constructs and morals were completely different. I feel that the people from the American past deserve a voice in these discussions. The current discussions we're having, the people who lived the events deserve to be heard. Fortunately for us, these people were very articulate, very well educated, and extraordinarily prone to writing down their thoughts and feelings. So we have a tremendous body of resources to look at to understand their perspectives and what they felt about very contentious issues like the Confederacy, the Civil War, slavery, the Union. They've told us. They've explained these things from their perspective of morals, their understanding of social values, and their worldview. So we're going to listen. We're going to let them tell us in their own words with their perspective on these events. Now I'm going to give you a brief example of how powerful a person and event becomes when you listen to them in their own words. This is just an example to show that I can explain a person, but until you listen to their experience in their own words, we can't really get it. Now I'm going to go back and talk about Archibald Alexander again. He lived from 1772 until 1851. During that time, he was the president of Hampden-Sydney College for 9 years. He was a professor at the Princeton Theological Seminary for 39 years. And he was one of the United States' most prolific theologians of the Presbyterian evangelical Calvinist line of thought. He was an extraordinarily important man. But from that perspective, he might not sound very interesting to most of you. He was a theologian. You know, how does that affect each and every one of us? Well, when he was 18 years old, he was traveling with a group of Presbyterian evangelicals through Southwest Virginia. And during this travel, he was experiencing a very powerful conversion experience. He was going through a very emotional period of coming to know and accept Christ and become a Christian. So the process of making him the theologian that he became later in life was occurring during his travels through Southwest Virginia in 1789. Now, in his diary, he records crossing the bridge of the Little River, which the Little Roanoke River, which would have been just around the Roanoke. So this would have been on the North Fork of the Roanoke River. He crossed the Little Roanoke River Bridge, and they traveled about 15 or 20 miles south along the crest of the Blue Ridge Parkway. So where I'm standing right now is just within probably 5 or 6 miles of where he was camped when this experience happened. I'm standing along the crest of the Blue Ridge on the parkway, just south of Roanoke. And when he was here, he was going off by himself into the woods. He was going off for prayer and meditation and attempting to reconcile or understand the dynamics of his salvation. So when he was out walking in the woods, he records this in his diary, and I'm going to read this directly. The quote he experienced here in this area along the crest of the Blue Ridge. He wrote, "I rolled on the ground in anguish of spirit, bewailing my insensibility. It was evident to me that as a righteous governor, he could not do otherwise than to condemn me to hell, and I could not but approve the sentence of my own condemnation. I knelt on the ground and poured out perhaps a single petition, or rather a broken cry for help, when in a moment I had such a view of the crucified Savior as is without parallel in my experience. The whole plan of grace appeared as clear as day. I was persuaded that God was willing to accept me just as I was, and convinced that I had never before understood the freeness of salvation, but had always been striving to bring some price in my hand or to prepare myself for receiving Christ. I can tell you all day that this man was a very good theologian, that he spent his life at Princeton Theological Seminary teaching future preachers. But until you hear his own words and his own experience in this area where we're standing today, it's hard for it to be impactful. We gain a much deeper understanding of the human equation in history when we read what the participants had to say in their own words. I'm going to be launching this series of blogs, and it's going to be titled In Their Own Words. And it's going to be an unbiased, non-political look at what folks had to say in their place and time, their thoughts, their opinions, their belief systems. And I'm going to begin this week with the thoughts and feelings of Dr. Callahil Stiglman of Floyd County, Virginia, in the post-war years and how he viewed Floyd's participation in the Civil War. So I hope you'll join me, and I think it's going to help us all to take a look at what folks had to say in their own words.